Welcome back, everybody, to watch more football. Another Premier League weekend has come and gone, and it wasn't a very good one as far as I'm concerned. As always, you're watching us in the Genreverse Sports YouTube channel. We're part of the Genreverse family. So while you're there, why not take a little look over on the Genreverse channel and see what we've got on there? Entertainment news, reviews, that kind of content. And we are also part of the family of lrmonline.com, which is the website that covers entertainment news, reviews, mostly news, to be honest, tons of interviews on there as well. So please check us out. My name's Cam Clark. I'm the host. I'm here, as always, with Ryan and Mick, and producer Kel's there as well. We don't have Dave this week. I actually forgot Dave wasn't coming until he sent that message earlier on to our chat saying, reminder that I won't be here this week, guys. I was like, oh,
I think it's his anniversary today, I think, isn't it?
It's his anniversary.
That what it was. Oh, he's up Maui, isn't he? Is he not away up to Edinburgh or something like that?
Yeah.
My wife's just come back from Edinburgh on Sunday as well.
Was she in her anniversary break as well, Mick? Yeah.
Yeah. Just went with her mum. I stayed at home with the kids.
Anyway. As always, we're going to start off with our predictions and how we did last week. Well, Ryan, you done okay. Ted did okay.
Yeah.
So
I think we put this down to it was a weekend of shocks, don't we? Whenever this happens. But yeah, Kyle and I both had a good week. Dave, I mean, comparatively had a good week as well, but Cam and Mick, you both need to take a long, hard look at yourselves in the mirror.
But like you said, it was a weekend of shocks.
Yeah, it was a weekend of shocks, and quite a few of them we got badly wrong. And you know, one I mean, Dave, just that one correct score really saved him, to be fair.
And all that's done is that Dave has pulled away slightly from Mick, and that's it. Everything else has remained the same.
Well, he's also got closer to me as well.
So for those of us listening on Spotify, Apple Music, and all other audio providers, Cam scored 3, Mick scored 3, Dave scored 6, me and Kyle scored 7, but Kyle got 2 correct results. So Cam is still top on 91, Dave on 89, Mick on 86, Kyle on 73, and I'm still bringing up the rear on 71. But it's maybe starting to contract a little bit.
Well, you know, a bit
until
like,
next week.
Like in some ways, the real Premier League. This was a weekend where you could have seen some teams maybe start to pull away, and instead you kind of just got dragged back into it. And I'm thinking of you guys and ourselves specifically, who
I think there's some missed opportunities.
In the weekend there. Where we started.
Yeah, in terms
obviously
of
Liverpool did pull away a little bit.
Yeah. In terms of surprise results, so I'm the only one who had Spurs beating City. I had them scraping a win though, so you know I don't think anyone saw a 4-0 come in.
I think we all knew it was a possibility because they had lost 4 in a row, but I think we all thought, right, that'll be the end of it.
I just had the courage to go for it, and actually before the match, when the lineups came out, City's midfield just looked ropey as hell, and I thought, oh, we're all for something here. But then the match started, but we'll talk about that later. None of us went for West Ham getting anything out of Newcastle, which again we can talk about later on. And everyone had Villa beating Palace, and that was a 2-2 draw. So there were a couple of interesting results. Wolves, no one had Wolves beating Fulham, and that was a bit of a turn up. That one.
We've talked in this show about Fulham doing well from time to time, or better than maybe expected them to do at the start of the year. Made some good signings, and everyone. Wolves have been in a downward slump. You just kind of thought it's at home. Fulham are at home as well. They'll probably win, but
the way that they won it as well. The way that they won it 4-1.
Yeah, I mean, it was a couple of moments of magic for Mateus Cunha, and I think the scoreline is more due to the fact that they'd used all their subs up, and then on about 70 minutes, Joachim Andersen got injured, so they finished the game with 10 men, and Wolves added a couple on then.
I think they were still losing the game at that point, but the extra goals maybe.
But yeah, I mean, but do you guys want to talk more in depth about Spurs versus City then?
No.
You don't?
I mean, we probably should. We probably should. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we talk about Spurs being good or do we talk about City being bad? I think you kind of, in this
It's got to be a
instance,
bit of both.
It is
you
a bit of
kind of
both,
have
yeah.
to talk a little bit about City being bad, though, because we've seen Spurs get some good results against City in previous years, and it'd maybe be, oh, Spurs played really well, City weren't on it. But City are in a bad way at the moment. The worst little bout of form that they've probably had in quite a number of years. And at the moment, you can't necessarily see that they're just going to suddenly click and go back into it. And there is some big problems there. I mean, Spurs really did seem to understand going in. You hear Kulusevski, who was brilliant again, but you hear him talking about their kind of tactical setup. They said they knew if they sat back kind of thing and just hitting the brake that there would be just tons of space that they could run into, and they had good enough players that they knew that once they get into that space they could cause a problem, and that's literally all they did to Man City all game. Just let them have it.
Yeah.
And Man City just can't seem to create any good chances at the moment. It's just all passy back across the face of the goal.
But they are really sort of susceptible in the counter. Their midfield just doesn't have any teeth to it at all at the minute.
Some drop off in Gundogan as a player from when he left City.
I mean, he was always sort of towards the back end of his time at City. He was getting forward a bit more anyway, so I don't think it's necessarily a surprise that he can't come in and do Rodri's job.
Even doing that, I just don't think he's looked the same player, to be honest.
No, but I think part of City's issue is that for the core of that side, it's probably just one season too many for them. You know, the core of the side that they've had under Pep, I think is pretty much the same. You know, you've got Stones, you've got Walker, Ruben Diaz, Rodri's not old, but he's sort of late 20s, but Gundogan, De Bruyne,
he's out as well.
It's not really been refreshed, and even players like Sterling and Mahrez who've moved on, I don't think he's necessarily replaced brilliantly either.
Some of the younger players don't seem to get a game very often.
£100 million.
What's the guy they signed for Wolves? He never gets a chance.
Oh, Mateus Nunes.
Yeah. They never seem to give him a shot. He's young. He's got legs. I would be wanting to maybe play him in that midfield if I was a City. But obviously, I'm not saying I know any better than Pep Guardiola, who's probably one of the best managers of all time. So he does know what he's doing. But he's the last few games, he's certainly been getting it wrong. That's for sure.
Was the first time Pep's lost 5 games in a row.
Yeah. It's not the first time City have lost 5 games in a row, mate.
No, it's the first time Pep has as a manager, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you say...
First time a set of champions have ever lost 5 in a row as well.
Yeah, it's interesting.
For a bajillion years.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of players who just aren't playing as well as they can. Phil Foden has just not been the same player since the Euros. He was really
infectious. This is Player of the Year.
Last year. And he was brilliant the back end of last season, no question. But he did not have a good Euros, and there's reasons for that. But he hasn't been as decisive, I think, this season.
He's not playing. He's just not playing well. He doesn't look the same.
He's not, because he was coming up with moments at the back end of last season. Things weren't going City's way. He would pick up the ball and go, right, I'm going to be the guy who does it, and that hasn't quite happened this time. Kyle Walker, like Mick was saying, he's at that sort of Gary Neville stage now, I think, where his body's caught up to him and he can't do it anymore, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe if he hadn't had the Euros, he'd get another year at it, but I think he looks tired, Walker, and he just does. He looks as if he's lost his speed, because
I'm staggered that he's not
quick, but
I'm staggered that he's not either. I'm staggered that he's not either made the decision himself, or sort of been convinced to retire from England duty like Trippier was, because at right back in particular, you've got Trent there, who is really sort of, he ought to be the first choice. You've got Livramento, who can deputise. You've got Reece James, who might be fit every now and then. We've got options at right back. There's no real reason to be carrying on with Kyle Walker until 2026. in my opinion. I think
probably not. But I guess maybe that's up to the new manager that comes in to decide that, Walker might feel, I'm just having a bad turn of form. I mean, who knows? By the end of the year, if he's winning a Champions League and he's man-marking Mbappe out of the game again, we might all be turning around going, oh yeah, we were a bit too soon with that.
I just
don't
think.
I think you're right.
Even if he somehow magically gets his pace back, I don't think he's worth being first choice in the side just so he can man-mark Mbappe one game of tournament, because that was absolutely his job in 2022. But I just think we've got better options there, and for his own career, it might be worth him taking a break. Spurs were quite good though in terms of they're quite brave about it. Yes, they were sort of trying to contain and break, but when they were breaking, they were being really patient with it. It wasn't just get it up quickly to a pacey forward and hope it sticks. It was Kulusevski is going to beat a couple of men. Maddison's going to make some smart runs. Son is going to play some good passes. It was really good, considered counter-attacking play from them, I thought. And I think it's probably the ideal of what Ange wants his team to look like. It's whether they can do that against lesser sides, isn't it?
Well, I mean, see, the difference is they sat back and hitting the counter more. They were brave about it. You kind of expect that to Spurs, but against a lot of other teams, they're sometimes reckless in terms of how high they push forward.
Yeah.
And they become suspect to the counter-attack. So it's maybe they're better suited to play a team like City where they know, right, we're not going to have as much of the ball as them because no team in the world gets as much of the ball as Man City ultimately. Then you just can't play like that. Like I think Newcastle play better sometimes against the big teams because we're better at sitting back and hitting the counter as well. And when a team plays a low block against us, we just don't know. I think
Spurs are a brilliant case study of where a lot of teams in the Premier League are at the minute. It's just sort of the way Premier League's developed in that pretty much every team has got a plan A, and when it comes off and everyone is doing their jobs right, it looks brilliant and it looks unstoppable. But if one thing goes wrong in that plan A, there's not a lot they can do to fix it, which is why Spurs will either beat a team 4-0 or they'll get beat 4-0. Because
I agree with you. There seems to be,
and I think there's a lot of teams
play the same style of football.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams that do that, and but it's everyone's got, this is what we do, this is how we play, and the minute they rehearse it every week, and they drill into routines, and it's like second nature. But the minute something happens, or the minute a team's found a way to stop that, they haven't got a way around that because it's like, well, this is how we play. So if it's difficult.
Yeah,
it is more common in the league this season.
And I think it's why we're seeing so many up and down games, because there's very few teams that are able to. And actually, one of the ways Liverpool has been beating everybody this year is by kind of not playing the way that everybody seems to want to do, which is super high press all the time.
Yeah.
Which Jurgen Klopp kind of brought in. Now their new manager's not really doing that, and are not in the same way, but more control based and then hitting in the counter attack.
Yeah.
And
but
everybody else trying to copy the Klopp system is all stuck in the middle of each other.
But I think as well, why Liverpool are so far ahead is because they do change it up even in game. Even if it's not necessarily even when it's going wrong, but if Slot is looking at the game and noticing a trend in the game and going, right, well, I can do this to stop that from happening. It doesn't matter if they're winning or he adapts throughout the game rather than going, this is the blueprint, we're just going to do the blueprint really well. And I think that's
I think a lot of managers, that's what fans seem to want. It's what the owners seem to want these days, and there is a lot of the managers that just can't adjust, as you say, to a plan B during the game in order to try and get a result. Sometimes we saw we'll go on to that later, but we saw Eddie Howe try something a bit different last night, and it absolutely destroyed the second half of the game for us. It just didn't work whatsoever. So I think you need to, as a team, have some different ways of playing that you can switch between. And I think maybe it's because they don't get enough time. I don't know, Ryan, Mick, if you think this on the training ground, because there's so much more games now. getting played. They just don't get enough time to practice these things and have different strategies in the training ground. I don't know.
Well, we should have this year because we haven't got anything through the week. We've got a full week between games.
We should. I'm not saying we as a club shouldn't necessarily at the moment, but I mean in general, what we're talking about is a lot of clubs are in this type of situation.
Yeah,
not
definitely.
Spurs for one. Man United have been in similar, obviously new regime there, but they were,
but basically what Amorim said is he's going to have to sort of rotate the squad, and the players who aren't playing one week get to learn the system, and then the players who do play get the following week off, and they get to learn the system, and he's just going to have to build it in that way, because otherwise he's not going to have time, because it's Thursday, Sunday from now until Christmas.
If that works for him, and if it does, kudos to him, and it shows that Man United have went and got a good manager, because it's finding a way to get your message across using the time that you've got, and when you have got a European competition to do as well, which you guys do, and you're still in all the cup competitions, it's tough.
I think as well, everything is so high stakes, and the expected lifespan of a manager is that short, that it's like, what can we control? What can we do really well? What can we get the maximum sort of measurable gain out of? Let's focus on those things and build from there. It's why set pieces are so sort of important nowadays, because they can be drilled and they can be practiced and they can be relied on. And it is hard to just give yourself the time to develop a dynamic style.
Yeah. But that is definitely a trend we're seeing. I think you're right, Ryan. Our next game that we were going to talk a little bit about is kind of our moment of the week, if you like, because we did lose another manager, another Premier League manager this weekend. Steve Cooper was sacked by Leicester City after they lost a game to Chelsea at the weekend. And I think it would be fair to say that within the industry, with the football people within the industry and ourselves, fans in the background, were maybe not Leicester fans in some ways, but the rest of us were all fairly surprised by this, because you would think that Leicester's aim this year is, as long as they can get 16th, basically, or 18th, 17th, 17th. As long as they're not in 18, 19 or 20, then it's a good season for them. And they're currently sitting after 12
16th
games at 16th. A couple of points ahead of the relegation zone. There's a couple of teams below them. And then they lose a game to Chelsea, who, let's face it, they were expected to lose against. No one, thought that, apart from Dave, who always bets against his own team, no one else really thought the way Chelsea are playing, the way Leicester are playing, that they were probably going to get a result. So it just became a bit of a shock, really.
I think the shock's the timing. I think the writing's been on the wall for him for a little while, just because even from the moment that he started, I think
the moment,
the Leicester fans didn't take to him because
he was a Forest manager,
because of the Forest link, because of the change in style to Enzo Maresca, and obviously Maresca left of his own accord. He didn't get sacked, so that was an issue. But the timing is interesting. But I don't know if you guys saw this, but basically Saturday night, after they lost to their old manager Enzo Maresca, a lot of the Leicester players, including a lot of the senior players, went off to Copenhagen for it was apparently their pre-planned Christmas night out. They went to Copenhagen, and they were in a nightclub, and they were recorded passing a sign around saying, "We miss you, Enzo," and this is why Cooper's still in the job. So I would guess that behind the scenes, there's probably been a bit of pressure on the board from some of the senior players. Like, we've been playing this really progressive style in the Championship, and now we've got this absolute donkey managing us.
But that's why did the club pick a guy? I know why they picked him. This guy's got Premier League experience. Tick box. Boom. There you go. And I think he sacked for Forest for a reason. I think he's a decent enough manager. But why would you pick someone that plays a completely different style of football from one that you've been playing?
I'm not sure how good a manager he actually is. He obviously did well with England under 21s sort of 5-6 years ago, when sort of Sancho, Phil Foden, Madueke. I think that generation. I think he won something with them, didn't he? I think he overachieved getting Forest promoted, and probably overachieved keeping them up that first season. But
Yeah,
I don't really. I didn't
Forest
see
have been a
anything.
better team since they get rid of him.
Yeah, but I think given how much how good they look now, because they have bought some good players, I didn't see anything massively impressive about Forest when he was there, personally.
Yeah, no, I'm with
And I
you.
think the reason Leicester went for him is because Maresca left quite late, and Graham Potter didn't fancy it at
is
the time.
available.
Yeah,
But he's already turned around and said that he doesn't want the Leicester job as well, Potter.
yeah. So I think the names
He probably
are.
just doesn't want to fight relegation
Well, yeah.
with somebody else's team.
I
There's
I
rumours
think,
the Rangers trying to get Potter.
yeah.
I don't know whether he would take that, but it would be a different side of the fence.
I think
from
Scottish
fighting
football
relegation,
needs
at
that
least.
again. A good manager in at Rangers to get him challenging
Well,
Celtic.
he's not winning anything this year because they've
No.
absolutely Celtic are running away with it
Yeah.
this year.
But I think the names in
maybe
the
for next year.
frame, the names in the frame for Leicester are Ruud van Nistelrooy, who has got a very
I get
limited
that.
CV, but obviously he did
But
all
he's just
right.
won 3 games in the Premier League.
He did. Well, he won two in the league.
Sorry.
Yeah, and drew one. No, it's just he won one, drew one in the league, and then he won a couple of cup
One
games.
in the cup.
And two of those were against Leicester, and he battered them both times, so that helps.
That's probably why they want him.
But then the other name is David Moyes, who's available, but that's just going to be sort of more of the same, but better implemented, isn't it?
It depends what you're trying to do, but could you play the way that Leicester, and they were talking about this in some of the football commentary, what did the fans kind of want?
Yeah.
Fans get a bit uppity these days, and it's like, oh, I don't want to play this. We don't want this negative football. But ultimately, your goal is to stay in the league. You can improve your team attractive-wise further down the line. But initially it's just stay in the league, don't go back down again. And sometimes you've got to play ugly football.
Especially with Leicester where they are, they got out of PSR this season on technicality. That's not going to happen for them again next season. And if they go down, they're going to be in a hell of a lot of trouble, I think. The EFL are sort of sitting there waiting for them to come down, and they're going to bollock them, I think.
At the same time, the argument for sitting Cooper for the fans is that when they went down under Brendan Rodgers, the signs were there early and they left it too long.
Yeah.
That the signs were there and it wasn't really working. Let's go and find somebody better. But I think what you do is they should have sacked him before the international break, and then they should have, like Man United did, and used that international break to go and find another.
I'll be honest.
But the rumour was that they were looking at sacking him the last international break as well.
Yeah.
They were looking into it and they left it and kept him on. And
I think they brought him in because he was cheap, because he was available, because it was last minute. But I think they've probably been shopping around anyway for the next guy, because I think they probably knew themselves he probably wouldn't.
So who are they going to get? And who did you say the favourites were?
It's Van Nistelrooy and Moyes. Potter was linked, but mixed.
I think David Moyes could be a good.
Yeah, I think
David Moyes could be good for them.
I think Moyes straddles that line between defensive football and effective football quite well. He did that really well for West Ham, and obviously West Ham wanted to sort of make the next step, but that's not where Leicester are at the minute. So
yeah, but who doesn't want to see Flamini back into the Premier League?
Sorry, you flummoxed me there.
Flamini, you mean Flamini?
Aye, that's Flamini. That's the one.
Matthew Flamini. I was like, what is Matthew Flamini's link to David Moyes?
He just wants Fellaini back. That's
yeah. But I think probably up until the last international break, I wonder if David Moyes was waiting for Steve Clarke to get the boot, because I'd love to see David Moyes in charge of Scotland, because I think he would really do well there.
So I'd like that as well. But there you go. He'll probably end up with another Premier League job. I don't know what
Steve Clarke's probably saved his job for the time being now, though, hasn't he? With that last window.
Well, maybe he might still get relegated. He's got that playoff game at least, but after the playoff game, who knows?
Yeah.
We'll probably talk about Chelsea a little bit. I mean, we don't want to because Dave's
don't
not
give him
here
too much
or anything
credit.
like that. But he did give us a prepared statement. Not sure if a clear sign of an improvement or Leicester were just truly awful. Leicester were truly awful.
Yeah.
But I think you're improving as well. The back four of Chelsea were reading the game very well. And to be fair, it's hard not to read the game well when the nearest attacker to you is 50 yards in front of you. Because Leicester did not attack at all.
It's very easy to read the game as well when your first sign is the stench of Red Bull because Jamie Vardy's making a run.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, best they've seen Badia Sheila in a while. Again, no attackers, does that. And Fofana was solid at right back. Enzo proved his importance in games where we should be dominating by giving us another creative outlet. He was good, as we'll see by our team of the week. Assisting and scoring in the game, despite Leicester scoring, I consider that a very dominating performance from Chelsea, where Leicester's attackers barely saw any of the ball. Yet again, a goal conceded where we weren't really in any danger. True. Hopefully we see a similar performance against Villa. The question will be who will Maresca start, Lavia or Enzo? I don't know about that.
In a game against Villa, you'll probably go for Lavia.
Yeah, I think it's a different game against Villa, but I think Villa aren't in a good run of form, and obviously they've got Champions League this week, and they don't tend to play well after the Champions League this season. So there's definitely something there for Chelsea. We haven't done Team of the Week yet.
So far, we haven't done Team of the Week yet.
No, but that's fine. Kyle's keeping up. He's paying attention. He's all right. But yeah, I think it will be a different game against Villa, but there's definitely something there for them. But yeah, I mean, we can go to the Team of the Week now if you guys don't know Chelsea.
As well.
I was thought we would have talked about the red card that never happened, like.
Yeah, I mean.
What in the
on Palmer? That tackle
was it indeed he tackled him? Sort of a rake on the heel of Palmer. I think, that probably ought to have been turned into a red.
That was a red for me.
Yeah,
it was a red. 100%.
And there were a few
for the game.
There were a few tasty challenges, weren't there?
It was after that, wasn't it?
I think it was after that. I think that's usually that's what happens when somebody has a bad challenge and everybody knows it was a bad challenge, but the referee was an idiot and missed it. They all start trying to exact revenge for 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, but I think it was Leicester was continually putting.
Yeah, it was. It was Leicester that was picking lumps out of Chelsea.
Probably saying the refs left his glasses at home. Let's get stuck in.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. Maybe there was words spoken or something like that. I don't know.
Right. Team of the Week then.
Yeah.
This was a tricky one because I think where it's been an odd weekend, I don't think there were that many standout players. Really.
Well, yeah.
But we've got Andre Onana in goal, who kept us in the game against Leicester, against Ipswich at times. He pulled off some quality saves, and he's like we said last week. He's had a good season overall. He's looking like a proper keeper this season, and he was probably the best United player, which is not a great sign, but it is what it is. Right back, Mick nominated Joel Veltman. Cam wasn't massively impressed by Brighton.
I also said Porro as well.
Pedro Porro, but we got 3 Spurs players in, so I thought we can't have Porro as well.
Should have been in, to be fair.
Veltman had a good game.
Yeah.
Done well.
Yeah. And okay. I mean, I guess, when you look at it that way, I didn't think Brighton again played that well, but won easily. It was one of those games again.
They did at the back, though.
I guess they defended pretty well. But once again, it was, my argument is they keep playing against teams that just fluff all their chances against them. And that's what happened again. Bournemouth just fluffed so many.
I think
they had cut it back for a tap in and somebody would just take the Hollywood shot. It was just one of those situations.
I think
Evan Nelson missed about 3 glorious chances, didn't he?
I think you're right, Cam, because they are getting a lot of credit this season, and obviously Hertzler's getting a lot of credit for Brighton. But I do think
some great coach.
Yeah, I do think they're playing all right. Definitely, don't get me wrong. They're a good side, but they aren't playing out of their skin this season. I don't think.
No.
but when they're winning most of the games, it's by sitting back and hitting on the break.
Yeah.
But they've been consistent in terms of their attacks in the break result in goals a lot. So they're
and I think they've got
that. But I don't think they've defended like legends. To be honest, I think they've been lucky with a lot of people just missing chances against them.
As well, they're
losing some of those games 3-1, 2-1.
They've got a wide set of forwards who all sort of offer something different, but they're all chipping in with goals as well. I think that's the big thing, and that's what a lot of teams lack. But we'll move on to centre back. We've got Dara O'Shea for Ipswich, who I just thought was solid. I was impressed with him at the back end of last season with Burnley, even as they were rubbish. But he's sort of stepped up. He's a bit of a leader in that back line. He's got that year of Premier League experience that a lot of the other players there don't. And he had a good solid game and kept everyone quiet, even if it was sort of an easy job for him because no one knew where to stand for United. And Ben Davies for Spurs, who going into the game,
talent humble.
Yeah, I mean he pulled off a big block for Haaland at 0-0 when City were on top. But I think just the narrative before the game was Ben Davies is going to get absolutely monstered here. There's no way he should be playing centre back, and he just had no dramas the whole game. I don't think.
No. He did play well.
And then Ryan Ait-Nouri for Wolves, who's had a really good season for Wolves, I think. If we're looking,
he's been close to Team of the Week a couple of times.
Yeah, and if we're looking at improving our options at left wing back, I think we could do a lot worse than him at United.
Yeah,
he looks tailor-made for Ruben's system, but yeah, he had another good game for Wolves.
I don't think he'll be at Wolves next season.
Yeah. Moving into midfield, so we had Dave's pick was Enzo Fernandez, as he explained in his little statement. He ran the show for Chelsea against Leicester, and that's a bit of a turnaround for him because he's not had a good season. And then I thought Jean Cajuste for Ipswich, even though he came off fairly early, I thought when he was on the pitch he was one of the best players. He was just sort of proper box to box, loads of energy, loads of running, made a really sort of crucial intervention when Garnacho had a really good chance on the break. He made a 40-yard run, put in a perfect tackle in the box to kill it, and just everything that United's midfield isn't, basically. So I plumped for him.
Legs.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Bit of legs, bit of physicality, and a bit of desire, basically. And then the third midfielder, we got James Maddison, who took his 2 goals really well, and just sort of, he ran the show against City. Really,
he's a good player. I don't think mentally he's always a top player. But if he's on it and he decides he's having one of those games, he's very, very good. He's good enough. He looks good enough to play for MD when he's having one of those games.
Yeah.
Problem is he'll turn up against a smaller team next week and he just won't be up for it.
Yeah.
And that performance just won't be there. But this week against City, he was class, wasn't he?
Yeah. And he was also made to look class by his mate Dejan Kulusevski, who's again having just a phenomenal season this season. But he was the players
of the season so far.
He was the best player on the pitch against City, I thought. The cross for the first goal was just beautiful. And then for I think it was the third one where he won the ball in midfield and he sort of skinned a couple of City players, did a 1-2 with Son, and then laid it on the plate for Pedro Porro. Was really nice to see.
He's playing well. And he's been playing actually in Maddison's role, weirdly, and playing really well there. But this week he was playing back on the right, where he had been playing, and he was just as good there. So it just shows you that, he's a good player.
Yeah. Speaking of good players, on the other wing, we've put him on the wing this time, even though normally we sort of have him in the number 10. But I think on the BBC lineup he was listed as a left winger. But Mateus Cunha, who again just had one of those games where he just decided he was going to be the guy. 2 really nice goals, and I think he got an assist for one of the other ones, didn't he? Yeah.
Mhm.
Cam's saying that he's not going to be at Wolves much longer, and
No.
I don't disagree. But it is going to be that question of, is the transfer fee they get for Cunha going to be worth probably getting relegated without him, because he's one of the few players in that squad with quality, I think.
They might not do it in January, to be fair. But I think if it's not January, then he definitely goes in the summer. And I don't think there's much they could do about it then. And I don't know what kind of contract he's on or what kind of fee they would be looking for.
I mean, I've said this before, but when he was at Atletico Madrid before he went to Wolves, United was sniffing around him, and obviously he was a bit younger and a bit less polished. And Gary O'Neill the last few weeks has sort of spoken quite openly about how he's been working on him to sort of pick up the weak points of his game, and he's really playing well this season.
And it happens. That's part of football. It's finding these, rough gems and then giving them that polish that they need. And we see that in a lot of other players. And look, after everybody talking about him not getting a game last year, look at Lewis Hall this year for Newcastle. So these there is good coaches out there, I think, amongst the managers, as much as they might all have these systems and sometimes they get in each other's way. I think part of it's because they are good coaches, but a lot of them are good at bringing players on and coaching them to become better players, which I think you need in this day and age.
And then lastly, I didn't really consult anyone on this, but I stuck Stuart Armstrong in for Southampton. No, not Stuart. Is it Stuart or Adam Armstrong?
No,
Adam. Who's Stuart Armstrong? He's a footballer as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a Scottish midfielder, isn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway.
He plays. That's the guy that used to play for Southampton and Celtic. Does he still? I can't remember who he plays for at the moment.
Anyway,
in the Championship.
Newcastle legend Adam Armstrong is playing for a team who play in red and white stripes, and he's doing well. But he's obviously he scored the penalty for Southampton's first goal. He did really well in setting up their second, and he just
technically missed the penalty.
Fine. But I thought he had a good game, and he led the line well there for Southampton, and really they should have got something up.
Took the place off and put it that way.
No.
But I was going to give a mention. I was going to give a mention to João Pedro. He did get a goal and assist.
Yeah, but
for Brighton,
but he wasn't.
He won the game for them.
If you look at but what did he do apart from those two incidents? Like his goal, he's just there to finish it off right, and it's a good finish. Don't get me wrong. Probably it was better play from him. The second goal.
I mean that's the same for Enzo. All Enzo's goal was a header off a save, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Rebound.
Well, I never watched too much of that game, so I'm assuming Dave did watch it and he played well and created other chances. I did watch it.
Give a mention to Bowen and Paquetá as well.
Yeah,
because them two were very unlucky.
Both of them played great for West Ham last night as well. We're unlucky not to make teams of the week, but neither of them scored actually, or I don't think even get assists. But it doesn't matter. That's not always what makes somebody
have a good game.
Did he? Right.
Yeah.
But both were the best players.
Yeah, I mean, going back to my sort of other point on Armstrong, I thought Southampton sort of deserved something out of that game. I think they should have got something out of that game. It was poor decision making from their keeper on the equaliser, and then obviously a penalty at the end for the winner. But
that's
what they keep doing, making these
my view, Southampton shouldn't have had that penalty in the first place.
But then they should have had one in the second half.
Yeah, in the first half.
Was it the first half?
Was it the first half? Yeah, it was in
the one where Kelleher.
The first 15 minutes.
No, the one where Kelleher goes through him as goes through Armstrong. Actually, I think that was at 2-1. They should have had that.
Yeah.
I thought that was more a penalty than the first one that they got. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Alex McCarthy for the second one. It's like when you're playing FIFA and you can press sort of Y or triangle to bring your keeper out, and he just goes on an adventure off to the touchline. It's sort of what a bit like that.
Yeah, it was like a club moment.
Yeah.
What's the keeper doing? As Salah just tapped it in.
Yeah. I mean, it's looking like Salah might be leaving Liverpool on a free this season. He was saying some interesting stuff at the weekend, wasn't he?
Well, they've not offered him a new contract yet, is what he says.
Yeah.
They've certainly not offered him one that he's willing to sign. So
Honestly, it's
Sometimes as a
mind-boggling
team,
that.
you've got to say, do you know what? At your age, we're not giving you this big
Yeah.
contract. You've been a great player, but it is time that we move on with you, and we'll take the hit for a year so that we don't get skin ourselves in 2 years.
Well, yeah,
time.
that's the thing. That's what happened with United quite a bit. Is they under Fergie they had a policy where as soon as a player turned 30, it was a 1-year renewal every single time because they knew at any minute they could drop off a cliff, and that got removed once Fergie left, and they ended up giving contracts to players who just could not fulfill them at all. And as good as Salah's been this season, at some point, his game is going to drop off a cliff, and he's halfway into a 5-year contract on massive wages. Liverpool can't afford that. So I totally see why they're being a bit careful with it.
I'm with you. Yeah, I kind of think the same. You know, I don't think it should just be, he's a great player, give him whatever money he wants. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So we move on and talk about our teams a little bit before we wrap up today.
So
No.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch the game yesterday, so I'm quite looking forward to the match report. What the fuck happened there then?
Well,
We were the better. I would have said. I would have said we were probably the better team in the first half. Just couldn't. The final ball was lacking. We couldn't finish. Second half, we came out. Obviously, we won 1-0 down at half time. Second half, we came out. We were on top again. Then Eddie Howe changed the formation, and we just went to shit. That was it.
Yeah,
what did he do then?
That's kind of how it worked.
Defensively,
we weren't good enough to lose the goals in the first place, though. They were bad goals.
We were probably on top, and then within like 10 minutes, West Ham broke, got that goal, and Eddie Howe went and changed it from the 4-3-3 to a 4-4-2, and we just didn't know how to
extra striker on, and we were just rubbish after that. Yeah, like West Ham were the best team for that point to the end of the game.
He changed it by putting Gordon up front with Isa. He didn't bring
that was because he didn't want to bring Wilson on too quick,
too early. Yeah. But we just didn't know how to play that formation. Didn't know how to play that system.
None of the you can see the players were going, who's supposed to be? It was a gamble. Eddie had made a gamble, and it just didn't work. But I think he does need to look at when we have a team. We're not good when we have a team play a low block against us and hit us in the counter attack. We talked about it earlier on. We're a prime example of that. Eddie wants us to play this high press and attacking football, but we've actually looked better when we've been playing against good teams where we've come off the ball and we've hit them in the counter attack. Whenever we play against a team that does it to us, and that's what West Ham did. They just parked the bus for the first half, if you like. You know, apart from a small spell after the first goal. They kind of just parked the bus against us, and as soon as they got a chance, they just took it. You know, bad defending.
The thing is, that was Lloyd Kelly all over that. He just dropped off through check, give him a free header. You don't do that. He's the most dangerous player in the corner for West Ham. Yeah. You don't do that. If Dan Burn was playing, he wouldn't have done that.
Probably not. No, they probably wouldn't have got their first goal if Dan had been playing. Fair enough, but I don't think we would have scored if Dan had been playing. One of those things where every time we had a chance to pass it through to somebody for a finish or something, it was too long or it was too short, and you were going, "That's a terrible ball." And that was the way. Good play up until we get to the final bit, and then what? Where's that going? Where's this going? Or shooting straight at the keeper, or shooting over the bar. Isaac had loads of good chances that he just didn't hit the target at all on. You know?
Yeah, I think you guys, you know, what you're saying about the low block, you are sort of missing that playmaker guy who can sort of make something out of nothing, thread between the lines. You think, you know, Bruno's a good passer, but he plays a bit deeper.
Same as
someone like Anthony Gordon, as good as he is, he's not the sort of player who makes it seem effortless. I don't think he achieves what he achieves through graft and hard work and brute force and persistence, basically. But he doesn't necessarily come up with a moment of magic out of nowhere, which I think possibly you need from him.
Well,
Harvey Barnes has got that a bit, but
I don't think he's the player that provides that. But you know, I think we need that in the team. I don't think it needs to be him that does that. You know, he doesn't need to be that player, but somebody needs to be that player, and I think we do miss that. Yeah,
Eddie Howe needs some
balls. That quality. Well,
he needs some balls to turn around and say, look, one of you midfielders is going to get dropped. I'm buying a number 10 who's going to create me some goals. He's going to have the balls to do that. At the minute, I don't know if he
I mean, I was saying back
Mm.
end of last season when you guys got linked to him briefly, I think Morgan Gibbs-White out of Forest would just fit that team like a glove, wouldn't he? He would solve a lot of your problems, I think.
Yeah.
I think if we play Tonali and Bruno together as a double pivot, I think that suits them both. Actually, you know what I mean? That one of them is always there to play next to each other. They're similar players, they would go well together.
Yeah, I want that, but also we still need that number 10 in front of them to go and.
Yeah, I agree. But at the moment, I think it needs to be Joe. But then we would miss Joe defensively, so you would play Joe either on the left or the right because he wants his defensive duties as well. So we are missing that person that can sit behind and be that bit more attacking, but can come back and be part of the midfield as well. As you say, somebody like a Gibbs-White would suit us well.
Sort of what Willock was doing when he first came, isn't it? He was that guy, but he's not.
Well, that's why he's been trying to play Willock, I think, ahead of anybody else at the moment. But Willock had a poor game yesterday as well. He wasn't good.
Now he's injured.
Everything he tried just didn't work out. He did take a bit of a nasty one, which it was off his own player, to be fair.
It was off long stuff.
But these things happen. But yeah, I'm just not sure. I think Willock's a good person to bring on 70 minutes. But I don't think he's a starter, and I think us trying to make him a starter, I don't think he's going to go to that level in football. I don't think he's going to be that good. So you want somebody to start that, and then
he was before last season. Before he had all those injuries last season, he was one of our standout performers. He was.
Yeah, but everybody goes through
in our run to get fourth. He was one of our standout performers.
Yeah, but I think
so was Miguel Almiron, but we all saw the limits of him, and we knew he was.
I think there's a lot of
you can't be getting the team now.
There's a lot of players. There's a lot of players still in that squad who were good enough to get you out of the relegation scrap and pull you up the table a bit. But if you're going to hit the next level and stay,
there's so many.
We need a bit of a rebuild. Yeah, we need to, and it might be that we need to sell a big player to fund a rebuild, and it might just be that we need to do that because I just don't think this team's ever going to win anything. To be honest, and if we want to keep Eddie there, we need to give Eddie a chance to build.
I saw someone mention online a little while ago that Arsenal is still sniffing around Alexander Isak, and say you sold Isak to Arsenal for 120 million. Fine, you've lost him. That's a shame. But even 100 million, right? You do that. You go and look at like Benjamin Sesko, who's available for 60 million, and
I like that Liam Delap.
You'd get him for 40, 50, wouldn't you? And then you can get your right winger that you need. You can get your 10 that you need.
Still got value.
Yeah. To be honest, right, I'm going to be honest here. I would rather sell Bruno than Isak. Because we have a ready-made
dropped off a bit this year, but
but we've got Tonali there, and the two of them play exactly the same.
I mean, City could definitely come in with £100 million bid for Bruno in January, couldn't they?
I don't think he's good
easily
enough to play for them. I don't think he's been good enough this year that Man City.
To be honest, he's better. Anyway, he's better than some of the centre mids that they've got there at the minute.
Yeah.
The point is that we were pretty shit and we deserved to get beat, and it's a bit disappointing because it was at home and it was this year we seem to have turned a corner. Yeah, and then we have one of these terrible performances, and that's why I do think we might only get mid-table this year because I think we're just not consistent enough.
I tell you now, if we don't
play well, but we don't play well every week.
I'm going to tell you now, if we don't get Europe, Eddie Howe will be sacked at the end of the season.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He will be. He will.
It'll be interesting to see if they go and get somebody better because I don't think there's a lot of automatic choices.
The only
rumor
I've seen is Mourinho saying,
he's just biding
let me know what's happening.
That would be a huge
He's biding his time in Turkey until the proper job comes up, isn't it? And it
would be a huge mistake. He's done.
Yeah.
It'd
I
be a huge
don't
mistake
disagree.
to go
I
down
agree
Mourinho.
with that. I totally agree with that.
Anyway, your guys, the Ruben revolution, Brian,
Yeah.
didn't quite revolve
I mean, it
in
started
the
all right, didn't
way
it?
you wanted.
81 seconds.
5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because when the lineup came out, there were quite a few surprises there, and no one could quite work out, media-wise, no one could quite work out where everyone was fitting on the team sheet, and I think that was slightly evident on the pitch as well. I do think he was favouring the players who weren't on international duty, who he'd been working with that little bit longer. And once everyone was back, he only had about 2 training sessions, which is not enough time to completely change your formation, obviously. I'd be staggered if we saw a starting midfielder, Casemiro and Eriksen again, because there were just no legs in that whatsoever. There was one moment that stood out in particular where Eriksen was pressing quite high and he was chasing down the Ipswich centre back. They got past him and just Eriksen could not get back, and then it was just the same old problem of Casemiro stranded, covering 20 square yards of pitch by himself, which is an issue. I think with the ball, there were encouraging signs. I think players were closer to each other and they were able to combine and link up a lot better compared to the system under Ten Hag, which, that saw basically everyone in the team being quite isolated and relying on long balls. So I think we are looking at ways that we can combine better. I think Xerxes, when he came off the bench, he was one of the 10s and he had a poor miss for one of his chances, but other than that, I think his link-up play was quite good. I'd like to see, when the left-backs get fully up to speed, I'd like to see Ahmad brought into the 10. I thought he had a good game at wing-back, but ideally you'd want Mazraoui there. And Ahmad just suits that 10 role a lot better. Off the ball, there's a lot of work to do just in terms of the running and the application and just the positional awareness, but some of that's going to come with time. Some of that is players are going to have to sort their acts out, basically.
Well, I think, there's only so much you can do with, I think, the players that you've got. And I think, like us, I think you've got some players that they won't go with you in the next level. If you go to the next level, they won't go with you. They're not good enough to go
Isn't
there.
Ahmad up of contract at the end of the season?
Yeah. I really don't see a world in which we don't renew him, though, because he's clearly one of our best forwards.
I mean, Garnacho's get potential, Ahmad's get potential, Hoyland's get potential, Xerxes get potential. Fernandes is good. At the moment, probably still in his peak. I still think you need to get rid of Rashford. I don't think he's ever going to be that player that is worth £300,000 a week.
No, but I don't see anyone. It's difficult with Rashford because even if his role in the side is diminished, just from an optics perspective, it's going to take a big fee to justify selling him just because of what he means to the club and what he represents in the club.
I think
plus his wages.
Could have a lot of thinking about what he represents for the club while you win no titles for many years with him being there. I just don't think he's good enough.
I just don't see a world. You'd think
he's not a top performer for me.
You'd think most clubs would probably sniff at even 40 million for him, and I just don't think it is a good look for the club to sell him for 40 million. I think it's more likely. It's more likely he leaves at the end of this contract.
$300,000 a week.
The issue is he's about 2 years into a 4-year contract, so he's we're stuck with him for a while. Is what I'm saying.
And it would tell me a lot about him if he sits on the bench for a couple of years and he's willing to do that and stay in the 300,000 and he doesn't say to some club, "I'll take less wages to go and play. I want to play." I wouldn't be surprised if he does that, and that would tell you a lot about him, because I just think mentally he's more into the money than he is the playing games and winning football. That's just what I see for him. I just don't see him being mentally strong as a footballer.
I think he's unfairly characterised there because there were periods under Solskjaer where he carried the club and he was playing through injury to play for the club, and a lot of his form issues.
That was his peak. The peak of his career, though, at that point, and he's never been that. He was never that good before it. He was never that good after it again. And that's like saying, was he any better than Saint Maximin was for a brief period under Newcastle?
I think he was better than Saint Maximin.
Probably a little bit, but you don't necessarily say that's what you're saying is this guy's got potential. he's not showed that potential.
Yeah, I think obviously the last year and a half have been quite disappointing for him, but before that, the only period where he was outright bad was when he was injured and recovering from the back injury. You know, and that was because he'd overplayed himself.
Different opinion of that.
Yeah.
I think he's been outright bad for a long time, because it depends what you're looking for in a player. I know that he's got a great shot. I know he's quick. I know he's got a good touch. He's got all the characteristics to be a good football player. But I think his attitude and his work rate are very, very poor for somebody that's his age and isn't won 7 European trophies and won 2 Ballon d'Ors already or whatever. I think that's the way it comes across to me sometimes. I'm the big guy I am. I don't need to work as hard as everybody else. Just give me the ball and I'll score. Except you give him the ball and he doesn't score. That's the problem. If you're going to have an attitude like that, you need to deliver.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see, because I think that is the same for a lot of players and a lot of players at United, and the thing with bringing in Amorim and bringing in the new tactical system is the players are either going to have to change the game and improve, or they're going to have to be out the door, basically. So we'll have to see. Yeah. I mean, one last thing to finish on. It was really encouraging to see on the bench we had Luke Shaw for the first time this season. We had Tyrell Malacia for the first time in 2 years, basically. We had Mason Mount back and we had Kobbie Mainoo back, and they've both been missing for a little while. Lenny Yoro's not far behind. So things are looking up that way. And I think when, if we can keep Shaw and Malacia fit and we can actually have some actual left backs, that will make things a hell of a lot easier.
And young Yoro,
I definitely think that
Mount and Mainoo coming back into midfield.
I was going to say, I think that midfield has been crying out for Mainoo. You've really missed him.
Well, no, I don't think before his injury, I don't think he was having a good season. But where it's going to be almost like,
but
where we're going to have this box midfield now, where there's more people around him. There's more, because of the way the team's set up. The players are closer together, so they can link up better. And it's going to take a while to build those combinations, but that's the plus point. I mean, the other thing I'd say is, in terms of just on vibes alone, the difference between Amorim and Ten Hag is that Amorim's been quite open on what he wants to do, and quite specific. Instead of just saying, "Oh, I want to be a good transition team," or "I want to do this," he's like, he'll single out like Garnacho in terms of how his close control surprised him, or he'll single out Mason Mount and say, "Oh, there's tons of qualities Mount's got that really suit my system," or it was difficult for Dalot because Dalot's been used to inverting from right back, but I want him to stick to the touchline because he's the wing back and he offers. So it's that he's more open, and he's been clear about
having to talk to the media. But
he is, but he's been clear about identifying the things that he wants to change and how he's going to do it. Now, whether he's able to achieve that's another story, but at the very least, from a fan's perspective, we know what he's working towards. And well, the issue with Ten Hag is we didn't know what he was working towards.
I must say though, Amorim won every game with Sporting this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he's been there for 4
years. And now
Sporting
are getting absolutely battered by Arsenal 3-1.
Yeah, he's clearly a good coach. It's whether he can win the battle over those players who need to be moved on. That's the same for any United manager.
I think if he says this player, that player goes, I think the new hierarchy go, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Jim.
I think they will.
Before Amorim was hired, and sort of just after Ten Hag was sacked, Jim Ratcliffe got interviewed, and he basically said, if you stuck Max Verstappen in a Williams, he's not going to win the Grand Prix for you, and that sort of suggests it doesn't matter who the manager is if the players aren't good enough. So I think he'll have some back in there.
Yeah.
Kyle's hurrying us up along, so should we go to the predictions for next week?
Yeah.
Yeah. There were some tough games to predict, I thought.
I can't remember.
Just a lot of teams that are sort of roughly on the same level. There's Wolves versus Bournemouth, which I think could be anything. Chelsea Villa, really tough to predict.
Wolves are starting to put a couple of games together, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've won the last two.
Spurs versus Fulham, again, those two teams are capable of anything, I think.
Derby.
And then the big one, obviously, is Liverpool Man City, and if Liverpool win, they're 11 points clear, and that's
so that's a win. They've won the league for me.
I don't disagree. I think it's and it's going to be interesting to see if, unlike Arsenal, if they do go for the jugular because they see a bit of vulnerability in City, because Arsenal have been quite happy to get a point in those big games. And it's whether Liverpool have it in them, it's whether they smell the blood and they go for it.
Finish them off.
Liverpool, knowing Liverpool, they will go for it.
Yeah.
They will smell the blood. It's at Anfield. The fans won't have anything other than them going for it.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
We do have a shit house of the week. It's not very long, but Kel can run the video for that, which is just Roy Keane basically telling a fan that he would be quite happy to meet him outside in the car park later. Clearly, while he was doing his media bit, this Ipswich fan was having a go at Roy Keane. We didn't hear what exactly was said, but we do hear Roy Keane telling the lads, "I'll wait for me out in the car park, and I'll see you out there." Which
just wanted a little chat, didn't he?
Yeah.
And
the thing is, Keane would have been waiting out there afterwards, and the guy wasn't.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, so Keane was a manager at Ipswich, 10, 12 years ago, when they weren't a very good club, and Keane did not have a brilliant managerial career, it's got to be said.
But and go at somebody so many years after the fact.
Yeah, especially while they're just stood there trying to
stuff.
do their job, But it was a very Roy Keane response, wasn't it?
It was.
Oh, definitely.
I liked it.
Yeah, I'd like to say on the overlap to see if he says anything about it.
Yeah, that's true. So,
he did also have that clip about Jill Scott getting smashed by Marlon Harewood in the week as well.
Definitely.
That one actually, that was
I think we did mean how did the game go? But it's just the way it came across was absolutely.
I know.
Well,
I think he knew. I think he knows exactly what he was.
Yeah, no, he knew. I think he stayed the right side of the line on that one, though.
Yeah. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
All right. So that's basically us for this week, guys. So we will be back next week. We'll catch you then. Hopefully Dave will be back with us again for our usual programming. Between now and then, check out our back catalogue if you want to look at any of that before. And please do give us a like and a subscribe if you did enjoy the show, or let us know what you like and don't like about the show, and we'll be happy to make some amendments and some adjustments if we can. Thanks for watching. Bye.